Okay, I'm back. I think I'm still on part one because I haven't gone on vacation yet. That's coming up tomorrow, and I didn't really intend to get into this project, but it was bugging me overnight. It's the next day from when I started this video. I apologize for my allergies. This is this is allergy season where I live. And I'm just dying this year. It's the worst year ever, so clearing my throat and constantly stuffy, even though I'm taking some medication. So I'm sorry about that, but there's not a damn thing I can do about it. It sounds like I have a cold maybe, but I don't. But anyway, I'm into this video deeper than I'd hoped, because I'd hoped that everything would work and I could just, do a nice demonstration of this old equipment and concern myself with replacing caps and tuning things up, so to speak, a little later. But yesterday I found that one channel of the amp didn't work, and after doing some tinkering, I wasn't even prepared to get deep into thought about this yesterday. I was just kind of picking around at it visually and didn't really pay much attention to the schematic. But now that I have, I figured out where the problem derives, where the problem resulting in one channel being out, where it derives from, and I figured out a couple of things about the circuit that are interesting. So I thought I'd take this opportunity to, for those who are interested, for the handful of people who are really interested in this stuff, to talk about the circuit here. It is kind of interesting. In many ways, it's very standard, and it uses old tricks from tube audio days, let's say. Nothing new there, but the circuit is interesting. Every amp is laid out a little bit differently, and the way Fisher of the early 80s chose to do this is probably worth discussing, and then that's sort of a precursor to what I'd like to do. Drinking my coffee. What I'd like to do modification wise. So first, what I'm hoping to do here is to get the tripod set up to look at the schematics. This is kind of hard to do, but I'll do my best. So first of all, let's look at the block diagram. I hope this comes through. It's just so hard to tell, and I think it will. I need a pen. I'm going to hit pause here and go grab a pen. Oh, there's a pencil right here. Might have something. Okay. Alright. So there's this let me take this off the tripod for a second. This amp has a feature on it that I will not ever use, but what it has, I know this is a little dark, this is a switch right here, and it's a mixing level. And what it does, there's a microphone input, and when you pull this out, it will mix the microphone input signal with whatever function that you have selected up here, and it'll mix the two. I'm never going to use that, so with that switch deactivated, it takes all that circuitry out of the circuit. So as you can see here, and it has a phono EQ, but I'm not going to use a phonograph right now, and I don't even want to consider that. So let's pretend we're dealing with auxiliary input. So auxiliary input comes up to the function switches, okay, and then you go over here to tape monitor. That's when you want to monitor what you're recording, and let's forget about that for a second. It goes straight through, And this is the mixing amplifier that mixes. There's a microphone preamp, and then there's a mixing level. That's the thing I just pulled out. I'm not going to consider that, so I'm going to consider this switch right here to be up to bypass that. So the very first thing the signal sees is the balance followed by the volume knobs or potentiometers. And lo and behold, yesterday I thought I was having issues with the volume pot, but it turned out to be the balance pot, which makes sense because there's little room for any problems in the signal path. There's some room for it, but in the signal path from the auxiliary input on out. And it turns out the balance pot, when I played around with it and deoxed it, things started working. It suddenly sprang to life. I got my second channel. I'm not convinced that there still isn't something going on inside the balance pot, because I don't think the levels coming out of them are the same left and right. I still think there's something wrong. And I would just really like to bypass that thing, although I don't think I'm going to do it right now because I want to get this amp working. But that would be for the future. How to bypass a balance pot is going to be an interesting topic for the future. So, all things I want to explore are right here. Right here in the balance and volume pot. So let's look at the schematics. Unfortunately, they're kind of pieced together right in a critical area here. But let me start with just a couple of things on here. Okay, so here are all the input jacks. There's the auxiliary right there. And this is the phono preamplifier right here, the RIAA equalization amplifier. So that only works when you have phonograph input. I'm not concerned about that. So from the inputs you come down here to the selector, the push button selector switches, and once you select something, now this right here, by the way, is, where are we at? Okay, this is the microphone amp right there, and that's going to be bypassed. And this business right here, there's the mixing volume pot. All this stuff, these are the mixing amplifiers for mixing the mic and the selected source. So that corresponds to the mix amp right here. And all that's going to be bypassed. So effectively, you know, when you trace this stuff through, and all the switches in the right position where you're not mixing and you don't have a phonograph, the signal from the auxiliary input is going to come to a switch, and it's going to land right there and right there, which are the top, which are at the tops of the balance pots. Those are the balance pots right there. And then what you have over here is these right here are the volume pots, and then this business right in here is the loudness contour, the loudness switch, which is another thing I don't like. I want to get into, this might be interesting to get into a little bit into how the loudness contour. This is a classic loudness contour design. It goes back to even the tube amp days in one form or another. And I might just draw it out, show you how it works, but effectively. But there is a way to bypass it, and the way to show you how to bypass it is easier if I draw this out. If I draw this out using a single channel and in larger form, so I can show you. And that might be worth doing, since I could just draw the balance, the loudness, and the And I'm going to clip the loudness out of the circuit right now, actually, and test it out after I find out if the levels on the left and right are the same. I first want to determine if the balance pots are working, and I might do that first. But the first thing I'm going to do is fire this amp up again today to make sure it works today. Okay, I don't know if something happens when it sits around and something happens with the carbon wipers or in the pots or something, and it's not going to work, and I got to tweak it around. I don't know. So let's get this amp fired up, then I'll draw these circuits out and show you what I want to do. And ultimately, I'd really like to have this thing back together today and working. And honestly, just listening to what I listened to yesterday, it sounded pretty good. In other words, I didn't hear any hum indicative of bad capacitors, even though capacitors still could be changing their capacitance and their characteristics slowly over the years and are in need of replacement. They really shouldn't get to the point where they start producing audible hum. But the amp is still usable, I believe, as is, at least for a little while till I make this another project. So let's get this, I'm going to hit pause and get this fired up, and let's give it a listen and a look. Turn the lights down, get a view of the VU meters. I love VU meters. I love those big pull this trash can out, it's getting in my way. I always loved those VU meters on Macintosh gear. I think every audiophile does. They're just, I don't know what's the word for it, but they're elegant and beautiful, and there's something about that soft, blue glow. And that whole look of those huge VU meters, just really awesome. Really cool. We'll do music today. We'll do it from the Sonos. And although Macintosh gear has always been ridiculously overpriced, you do not get I don't care what anyone says, it's just crazy crap. No way in hell. Even used, not worth it. They're not that good. No friggin' way. Check my connections. But I like VU meters, and this amp is this Fisher, what is it, CA-880, has these beautiful VUs, and I don't like I'll show you in a minute what I don't like, but for nostalgic gear, it's a nice looking amp, and I hope it's going to sound good out of the Bose 901s that I have. This amp is 100 watts a channel, so it should be able to power the Bose to reasonable levels, although Bose love power. They need a lot of power. The 901s do, at least. Tremendous. That's a whole other video in itself. About the design of the 901s and all the compromises. I'm pretty familiar with that. I've done a lot of research on it since I bought those speakers. But, okay, what was I going to do? Get this thing powered up. We are connected. Switch is off. Plug it in. Get some music going here. Volume turned down. I always get a hum when I touch the volume knob because I've pulled it out of the chassis, and it's presumably it's because it's not earth grounded, and I'm creating I'm definitely creating a ground loop of some kind when I touch it, but only when I touch it. Okay, amp is on. See, there's the ground loop. Just using the Sonos. speakers that are coming out of now are my Panasonic thrusters. Those are my shop speakers. Those are my shop speakers, and they're full range. Big fan of full range speakers. Okay, I'm in stereo mode, and pull this back. Okay, so all the lights are working, and let me just get a song with some bass. I'm listening to a Stereolab CD. I listen to a lot of different varieties of music, but I know from past reviews that Stereolab is not one of those bands that pulls your crap off of eBay because of copyright. Now, look at that. Just sitting overnight, all of a sudden my right channel doesn't work. I don't know. See that? Now, let's hit the loudness. Nothing. Hit mono. Works in mono. Now, doesn't work in stereo. Make sure that both of my things are plugged in there. Right channel not working. Loudness in and out, no effect. Mic mixer, no effect. Mono works, but that's because mono is going to mix both channels, so it's just getting a feed from the opposite channel and mixing them together. So now that I've had some time to it did work yesterday. So what is it that happens overnight? You know, what is it that happens overnight that's causing this? I would love to know. Bass and treble are working. Loudness does something. Try one more time. Turn this off. Rotate the volume pot all the way around, back and forth. Turn it down. Turn it on. Nothing. So what I guess what I want to know now, because I was just tinkering yesterday, I assumed it was the balance and cleaned it, and it seemed to work. But now I've got to wonder if it's something else. So before I even get into all those modifications I talked about, we're back to troubleshooting. And this, again, is not what I wanted. Not what I wanted. I just wanted to use the thing. Okay, the amp is unplugged. What am I going to do here? I should have brought a flashlight down. I got a couple of them. Okay, let me hit pause here and look around. Look around the balance pot and see if I see anything. Working. Tuner, phono, tuner, aux, tape monitor, mic mix. Now listen to that. One channel's out again. Just by tinkering around, I got one channel to go out. Isn't that interesting? Let's see. One channel's out. Let's see if we can figure out the switch that's causing the problem. Okay, that channel's out. Speakers B, A, B off. Auxiliary, tuner, phono, tuner, auxiliary. Tape monitor, look at that. Look at that. Tape monitor switch. Look at that. Look at that. Now the channel's back. Now it's going out again. Now it's back. It's not affecting the other channel. See that? Let me turn the volume balance back. Listen to that. tape monitor switch. Okay. Oh, jeez. All right. Well, we got our first big clue here. Let's blow that thing out with some deoxit. Amp is unplugged. I'm still not going to touch anything inside. And my flashlight. So the tape monitor switch is that, it's not bright. It's that very bottom in that stack of white switches. It's the very bottom one. And it's an on-off, push button on-off type switch. And there's something internal going on. However, the circuit board for it is attached right to it, so if I need to bypass something after I figure out how to do it, that would be fairly straightforward, easy to access without any major headaches. Pull this off and get a better look at that tape monitor switch. Oh, let's see. Okay, you can see it at the very bottom switch. I don't know how it's gonna come through, but I'm gonna start pushing it now. You can see it right there moving in and out. That's the one. Got to find a way to get some deoxit in there. Maybe that'll work. It sounds like maybe there's some free carbon floating around causing an intermittent. I don't know what, without studying the switch, which I'm about to do, I'm not sure what would cause that, but clearly there's not, a connection is not being made to one channel. And knowing that that switch is bad, and even if I deoxed it, it might go bad in the future, I'd really like to bypass it. So if that's the problem, that would be great. It sounds like it is. So I'm going to put this down and blow some deoxit in there. Those switches, I couldn't find any way to get inside of those switches. I took the front panel off. It's 6 screws. 3 on the top, 3 on the bottom. And you can see the VU meter movements down there. Very nice. And the tape monitor switch is that one, but there's no, looks like they're sealed. There's no way to get access to inside those switches to blow them out. And that tape monitor switch is a big one. Excuse me, allergies. It has a ton of connections on them, a ton of parallel switches on the bottom. And I just don't know what I want to do to fix that. If there's a way to bypass it, that's what I'd prefer, and that's what I'm going to try to figure out. So I'm still working on it. I'm going to hit pause here for a minute while I think about this and get right back.